Welcome back to the RedSeaPodcast. Welcome back to once again a more special one. As I said, we'll see a bunch of more special ones as time goes on. An episode that was planned a bit differently, but due to some inconsistency on my end, turned out to be a solo one, which means that, as always, there is a link down below for you all to join and drop your opinions if you so wish to do so. Of course, there is another comment, just like there was in the football season recap. For those of you that have checked that out, we did that with Gav. I think it's been a couple of weeks now, if I'm not completely mistaken. Um, there is a comment for you all to leave your quote unquote individual awards and for you to say what you thought about the season in general. And as I alluded, uh, this will be just a general relaxing talk about uh, how the season went for Olympiacos BC as we did for Olympiacos FC. Now this one's a bit different. This one is a bit more on the wilder end. This one is a bit more on the end of, how do I say this? Uh, it's, in my eyes at least, it's more or less what the title says. It was a big roller coaster from the summer to getting to this summer throughout the entire journey. Of course, the Olympiacos BC department is never safe of criticism, but last summer, to take this very quickly from the top, it was different than we're used to. It was unique because, of course, we knew that we were heading into our 100 years. Of course, as always, every summer there was a comparison with the moves that were happening in football. And as time went on, two moves happened that I don't think anyone really expected. Of course, different types of moves happened as well, both in the summer and throughout the entirety of the season. But two moves happened that were both expected and not expected in a way. Of course, the first one being Sasa Vezenkov coming back from the NBA after his stint with the Sacramento Kings and that whole debacle then with the trade to the to the Raptors and then waiting to see if he'd be uh, let go into free agency, then the rumors of Pana, then the contract talks, this and that. And then, after all that was confirmed, of course, uh, we started hearing rumors about Van Fournier looking to move to the Euroleague and end his very, very long NBA career, 12-year NBA career. We knew his admiration for us. He said that if he ever was to come to the Euroleague, he'd love to play for Olympiacos. Stuff happened, and that very, very memorable uh, summer night. Uh, Fournier traveled to Greece with that insane set that none of us are ever going to forget, I think. And the rest is being made into history after a year. So, heading into such a historic season with two very big moves, I think the pressure and expectation, if you combine the two reasons, was higher than ever, honestly. I think the pressure and expectation was more than it even would have been. And it all started well, with us, of course, capturing the Super Cup, which is a cup that not many people pay much attention to. Uh, and then starting the season off very well, uh, despite the league losses to Pana, who stood tall in the league throughout the entirety of the season, before the playoffs, that is. And as we moved through the season and were first in in the Euroleague, uh, capturing the home field advantage very early, relatively. Of course, there was the usual toxicity going around. There was the usual criticism going around. There was the usual talk. And that's not just from our side, as it's never been just from our side, honestly. That has always been from both sides. The other side, of course, is the Panathinaikos quote unquote fans that don't steer that far from their owner and have their hate, because it is hate, it is blasted hate, but it's still hate for Olympiacos grow much bigger than the love for their own team, uh, with every game of Olympiacos being flooded from more Panathinaikos comments on social than Olympiacos comments. And then there was our side, which is either the usual portion, thankfully minority, of the fans that are chronically online that suddenly say that everyone's a god when we win and say that everyone should leave the team when we lose. The media war that was against Bartzokas, as always is, with some of our side falling for it. The general dip in form that we had to overcome, which was a losing streak at some point, which made everyone go insane. The toxicity that was around in general, especially on social, and just moments of up and down and up and down. The couples that led into a mini implosion, to be honest, uh, of the fan base. The insane way that everything managed to bounce up and down and up and down and up and down. And the way that we did bounce back with keeping first position, of course, in the Euroleague, the way that we did bounce back up until the final four, that we seem to enter with momentum that seemed to be unparalleled up until a point. And then final four happened with the the toxicity never really leaving this club and this fan base. we went into a fourth straight Final Four with a mixture of hope and positivity. Of course, uh, stuff that got tackled was everything from performance to injuries that it is necessary to say when you're talking about this team that injuries plagued us the whole season. Of course, stuff is at fault for the goals that haven't been made, but injuries did tear this team apart, as it honestly usually happens, as it usually ends up happening, with no fail sometimes. But we go into the final four with hope, with positivity, with a representation of the fan base that did us more than proud, and to this day and for a while I'll be the first one to congratulate the people that traveled all the way to Abu Dhabi to support this team in such a historic year for such a historic moment. And of course, a moment that needs to be talked about is the start of March, when after a relative dip in form, the fans showed up in basketball as well and got two vital victories both in the Euroleague and the league, and showed how we need to celebrate the club. And then, as I said, just fan domination is what we saw in Abu Dhabi, a fan representation that we arguably hadn't seen all season, but maybe those days that I mentioned when the 100 years were being celebrated. Uh, and we didn't stand tall. We once again weren't ready. We once again failed to meet expectations. Mind you, all that coming after uh, Fener killed Panathinaikos, because Fener killed Panathinaikos. And I'm not saying that in any ironic or mocking way. Fener played the most consistent basketball there is, and Fener deserved this year's trophy. But that coming after Fener just mauled Panathinaikos, and it just, ever since the start of the game, it showed that we weren't ready. We sadly didn't meet expectations. Everything went to shit. Fans were tearing everyone apart. Division was at its high. Uh, People were yelling for over heads. People were saying and writing anything and everything that the team had of Evan Fournier crying will haunt me for life. I think uh, a lot of stuff collapsed. I feel like we knew that some people were ready to go. Gizmo agrees as well. My dog agrees as well. And talks were to be had. And suddenly, from the two main goals that the team was fighting for, there was one. In a task that seemed impossible, and in a task that was made possible through the 7 layers of hell. It feels like, with the usual suspect doing the most to kill momentum, doing the most to rile up everyone, which backfired like a motherfucker. Uh, Doing the most to just spread the toxicity he knows, and doing the most to just spread the spotlight on him. And after that happened, especially with the atrocities that happened in game two, a new fire was lit in our stomachs after everything that happened. Of course, the finals almost didn't continue after the series was 1-1. But he, who I shall not name because it doesn't matter right now, he spared not only our people on, which helped the team win game two in a very comfortable fashion. And after everything that happened, then we came out on top, and the league continued. Of course, he didn't stop, but the team didn't stop either. Going to game three and winning in chaotic fashion with a clip that has people divided, very divided. I'm sorry, I completely forgot my English there for a second. Clip that has people very divided. Uh, Still to this day, from Ivan Fournier, but after the interview, after everything that happened, I'm still not blaming. I didn't blame Ivan due to the circumstances. That I didn't blame Ivan from the start, and I'm not gonna now. And I feel like the toxicity just continued flying up in a very rapid pace. And game four was a must. Game four was a must win. And honestly, I don't know who truly went into it thinking with absolute certainty that we're gonna go on and do it. I don't know who went into it with the certainty that the team showed, but the team did it. A task deemed impossible made reality, and Olympiacos crowned your 24-25 champions, winning a series that, if you ask 9 out of 10 Olympiacos fans before it started, if they'd win it, they'd say that we'd lose 3-0. And I'm not even gonna hide behind my finger and say that we'd lose 3-1 before the series started. But yeah, the season that had ups and downs and that ended the rightful way. And I feel like how the season ended can spare us on into a summer that we need to make right, and with the pieces that we will keep to move on and achieve the goals that we failed to this season. Now, as I did in as me and Gav did, Gav who will be back soon enough, by the way, uh, as me and Gav did for the football uh, part of the season recap, I have prepared some player ratings so we can go over and very calmly, not really analytically, just discuss what happened this season with everyone. I am gonna shout out for the next few segments a great supporter to the show and a very good friend, dare I say, up until now, and that's of course Olympiacos BC France. Go search him up on Twitter if my memory doesn't completely fail me right after we're done. I will link him down in the description along with my links. So the individual awards idea and the ratings idea just spurred on from a discussion I had with him after some tweets he posted. So credit where credit is due, of course. But yeah, this will just be calmer discussion and no real stat focus as I have done for most of the post games this season. And the first one that I have noted down is a man that I want to talk about for sadly the reasons that shouldn't have been planned, and that's of course Mustafa. Mustafa sadly out for next season, and I sadly doubt that his career is ever gonna be the same with the severity of the injury and his age. Fal that has been plagued by injuries throughout the season stood very unlucky. Sadly, very sadly, stood very unlucky. But Fal that was a vital part of a lot of the season, especially when we talk about a deep in form of Nikola Milutinov. Through a couple of months, if we're being totally honest, and of course, the first thing that everyone should say when they talk about Musfali is a very speedy recovery and for him to come back to basketball and not a shell of his former self. And of course, I didn't really deem it as report breaking news when it came out that Olympiacos will honor Fal's contract and see it out. Of course, Fal's contract ends next season, if I'm not mistaken. There were some usual suspects from the green side that tried to spread some false rumors that Olympiacos were thinking about releasing Fal, but of course that won't happen because it is common sense to cover your severely injured players' wages, as many teams have done, not just Olympiacos. But thinking back to Fal's season, I very perhaps harshly, perhaps he should be bumped up to an 8, but I gave him a 7 out of 10. As always, if you aren't that aware of my ratings, γεια σου φίλε μου. If you aren't that aware of my ratings, I tend to start from 6 as my base, so a bit above average. I'm gonna bring back the player ratings for football as we head into next season as well. But I tend to start from 6, so 6 is my average, even if it's a bit above, and then go up and down. So you will very, very rarely see uh, a bad rating on my end. There are some non-applicables on here, but you will very rarely see a bad rating on my end. I do see the player of the season comment. I'll get into it after I talk about the ratings. But yeah, do leave your stuff in the, as you see on the screen, do leave your individual awards in the comments and I'll read them out along with mine. Now, as I was saying, I've given Fall a 7. Why have I given Fall a 7? Because Fall season felt, of course, it was leaning towards the good side, but Fall season felt very up and down. Some games it was the Fall that we all know and love, that dominant force that built the base of the defense that spurred offense onwards. And other games it was the Fall that couldn't keep up. So I have given him a 7 because I think his positive contribution was way more than his non-contribution, and you'll see how that compares to my other ratings. And the best and biggest thing that I want to say from and for Mustafa Fall is speed recovery. Now, the first out of two non-applicables, that's Nas Vitronov. Of course, nothing to say on Nas. Of course, leaning back towards the list that I credited, he was the lowest rated. If I had to give him a rating, it could be a 3, but I felt like that would have been unfair because he didn't play. Nas is sadly not meant for this level. He'll more than likely move in the summer as we hopefully find a much needed replacement on the Greek side of the team. And I'll talk about a much needed replacement and a replacement that has divided a lot of people, and in my opinion, is worth a chance. And another Greek that's been talked about, not in rumors but in discussions, that I don't know if I'm very for, but we'll see. But yeah, Nas, not really much to say, not a big enough of a contribution to even be talked about. Now, another divisive one, as stands with uh, this department of the club in general. I feel like dividing fans is a specialty, and that's Tyler Dorsey. Of course, not gonna hide behind my finger. I've not been the biggest supporter of Tyler. He had a weird year. He was out of the team a lot. When he was in the team, he wasn't really performing amazingly. We all know the issues that came out and how Bartzokas rightfully protected him from the media and the criticism from the fans, especially online. Again, I will rightfully admit how, in hindsight, wrong I was for my both rightful and unrightful criticism for Tyler. Why don't you wear the jersey? I would have loved to wear the jersey, but I kept it behind with the rest because it is way too hot right now, and I'm afraid I'll get the jersey messy. And for those of you that do follow me on Twitter, you know that my AC is spent, so there isn't real much of hope regarding the heat in this house right now. That's why I'm avoiding wearing the jersey. As I was saying, back to Tyler. In hindsight, I was wrong. Of course, I was. And that in this situation, I have said it many times. I've said it both on football, I've said it both on basketball, I've said it regarding every sport when talking about Olympiacos, of course, that I'm never happier than when I'm wrong about the player. Of course, when they criticize the player and they turn out to be way better. I've given Tyler a 6. Normally, with the season he had, I would have bumped him down to a 5, especially with expectations that were there when he came in. But due to the incredible show that he put up from game 2 and afterwards in the finals, and the vital, I think it's very safe to say that he did play a vital role in winning the Greek Basket League. I bumped him up to a 6. And if we keep seeing that Tyler Dorsey from the summer onwards, and if he's deemed consistent enough in the summer preparation, he will be needed next season. And completely turning around my opinion, as he has many people, I would love for him to be given a chance next season because it feels like we'll need him for many different reasons. Now, uh, I'll talk about the awards later, but moving on to my disappointment of the season and the case in where I'm wrong about a player in the wrong way, because this is a move that I did give a lot of credit to. This is a move that I did give a lot of expectations to. And I did say, I'll openly admit that I did say that this is a move that will surprise people. So, come last summer, I was playing off this man as potential surprise of the season. That's Luca Vildoza. I've given Luca after thought. I started off Luca at a 5. I've given Luca a 4. Luca Vildoza, perhaps not many people were expecting many things. We know the player that Luca can be. We know his abilities. We know his positives. We know his negatives. But sadly, while he did give the team more than he did Panathinaikos, he didn't live up to expectations in the slightest, sadly. Although, because there is a chance that he does stay, he wants to stay. He has openly said that he wants to stay. I am willing, and I might get burned double for this, but if he stays as like a fourth choice guard, I am willing to give it a chance if the team deems him good enough and able to work enough as to improve to be good enough. I think that is the better way to say it. But if the team deems him as such, I'm willing to give him a second chance on way more limited time. But I've given him a 4. Now, Larezakis. Lara, I've given a 5. Uh, the viral moment of this team, the Combra, perhaps getting more limited time than he deserved, perhaps getting more limited time than he wanted. He was DNP'd in a lot of games that perhaps he could have helped, but whenever he was given even 3-4 minutes, he gave it his all. He will always give it his all for this team. He has defended this badge with as much honor as it gets, honestly. He's very passionate. He loves Olympiacos. Uh, he loves being here, and he's shown that many times. And as we know that he is one of the very, very few that even if he gets a DNP, will stand behind this team, will try and motivate this team. I don't see any reason why he should go. And I've, of course, as I said, given him 5. I'm not gonna lie, I started him off at a 6, but I did bump him down a bit, given that Tyler stands at a 6. Now, my second non-applicable, and I don't know if it's fair to put him at a non-applicable. I don't know if it's fair to give him a rating. That's Moses Wright. Moses, of course, who has already left the club. Moses, who did stand as one of my favorite prospects that this team has, because Moses is still very young, but of course he got plagued because it is very safe to say that he got played. With health issues, we didn't know if he'd be back this season. He came back stronger than ever, came back with a new air of confidence and helped the team a lot. Now he's gone. He has agreed, as far as I'm aware, uh, along with Nigel Williams goes, he has agreed with Zalgiris. And yeah, his contributions will not go forgotten. The way he represented the club will not go forgotten. I'm glad he left as champion, but I couldn't really land on a rating. So, in my opinion, he stands as non-applicable. Next one's Milutinov, another man that has had fans flipping their opinions like they were a coin. Another man that has had fans turning over and over again in whether they want him in the team or not. A player that I've been screaming would be crucial once he figures everything out. And even in his renewal, fans are divided again. Of course, we all know the fiasco with Panathinaikos offer, which he immediately denied, and Giannakopoulos passing it off as a victory because we paid more, stuff like that. You all know what happened. I don't need to analyze it. But I'll die on the hill that Nicola will be even better next season, that the renewal was more than deserved, and I can't wait to finally see him get more time and maybe even the starting guard of this team, depending on who comes in, because we need two people to come in. My guess is, from what Bartzokas has said as well, that the third being will be a twinner between the 4 and the 5, so we'll have two classic bigs in the team, but still depending on who does end up coming in. Can't wait to see Milu get more time and show off more as he has the last few months of the season. But I've given him a 7, same rating as Mustafa Fall, because he did have his deep in form as well. He did have his moments of mistakes, his moments where he couldn't keep up, but the way his form rose more and more to the Milutinov we know can show up and can keep up. I'm very positive for next season, and that next season, after such, again, in my opinion, a deserved renewal, will be even better. And I also stand by what I said that you can't change your entire Bigs lineup in summer. And I'm glad we kept Milutinov. I'm more than glad we kept Milutinov. Would we have kept Milutinov if Fan didn't get injured? I don't know. But I have always been of the opinion that keeping Milutinov was preferable either way. So I'm glad we have proceeded to do so. Next is a weird one. A man that I didn't know how to grade, but I've graded him anyway. I didn't want to just bump half the team into an A. And that's Saben Lee. Saben Lee, who is gonna stay as things stand. Saben Lee, who coach they wants him here. So as things stand, he's staying. Saben Lee is a player that I believe in a lot. I've said this before, and I'm still more or less standing my ground. I don't think I've been proven wrong yet, unlike, of course, Luca Vildola. Lee is a player that came in late, of course, as a result of Walkup's big injury. And Lee is a player that didn't really adapt. I've given him a 6 because of the benefit of the doubt. Because Lee was useful. Lee did so glimpses of what he can do. And I feel like after the summer, again, clip this. Maybe I'm proven completely wrong, but I feel like after the summer we'll see Lee at the top of his game, and again with a limited role. I'm nowhere near saying that Lee should be a starter in this game, but with a limited role, I'm pretty sure he'll be a valuable asset off the bench. Now, again, as I've said before, division in this department of this team comes like pair of goddamn gloves. Papanikolaou, captain. Oh, captain, my damn captain. Given him a 7, along with Filipino Fatifal, because while he did have his moments, while he is getting up there, we've said many times that when Papanikolaou is good, Olympiacos is incredible. And when Papanikolaou was good this season, we played our best basketball. And even when Papanikolaou wasn't that good on the court, he still urges the team on. He still is there for everyone, and I can't, for his influence on and off the court, I can give him less than so. Now, the man that almost retired, the man that will know the future of probably by tomorrow night, as far as my understanding goes, and that's Shaquille McGeesick. And I've purposefully not really participated in the talks that are happening regarding Shaq's future because I wanted to talk about it here. And thinking about it, I am leaning towards Shaq staying because of 3 reasons. And many people have said that the arguments of Shaq staying are purely emotional and not basketball wise. So I'll do my best to connect those. The first one is that keeping Shaq as a third option, keeping Shaq for the finals of the basket league, and to rest people in the GPL season throughout the season and get some very limited minutes in the Euroleague when he's needed because Shaq is a player that is needed, is an asset you can't really lose, in my opinion. Connected to that, we're talking about a player similar to Larazakis that doesn't complain, even if he gets 1 minute, or even if he doesn't play, or even if he gets 20, doesn't complain and gives his all. Shaq's season started greatly and then slowly fell off, but with his veteran contribution, his possible veteran contribution in the league finals, and the limited minutes that he can give to this team, and his presence in the locker room, for me, renewing him is the better choice. But even if he doesn't, I'll understand, but I'm not leaning towards the let's go movement that seems to be going around. I am way more positive than negative, so I'll support either decision that I'm sure will be the best taken for the club regarding Shaq and his future. And as I've said, I think I said it, giving him a 6. Uh, we're coming up on 45. Thank you all that are still here and watching or watching after. because we still have a bit to go. Thomas woke up. Thomas woke up. I've also given a 6. Of course, woke up suffering a very lengthy injury, and as he came back, he started off as a shell of his former self, and then he worked towards the woke up that we know. We've said many times that woke up isn't the stats player, but Thomas Walkup is a player that will help the team, especially defensively. Uh, but in many aspects that don't really show the dirty work, as I usually say in football terms. But there was a moment where he didn't even do that, and the criticism for me was rightful there. But again, giving this man time to fully recover and limiting his role in the team is a combination that can keep him here and get the best out of what he has to give. And of course, knock on wood, he stays healthy. So I'm giving him a 6. Now, one of the biggest grades of this team, and one of my uh, awards, that's Alec Peters. Alec Peters has given an 8.5. I was almost leading towards a 9, but I've given a 9 to two two names that you can guess. Uh, Alec, for me, of course, I'll name it after as well. Alec is the surprise of the season and the 6th man of the year for me. I'm not surprised by how consistently good Alec was. What mostly surprises me is that he adapted from his main role last year, coming into this year becoming the two-way player that he wasn't, and not only adjusting to be a consistent two-way player no matter the minutes he gets, but he turned his game around to be able to go and play at the 5 as well when needed, when we ran small ball multiple times this season. And as was deemed rightful, the pitiful offer that Real Madrid put in of 500k to buy out Alex Peters was rejected. And for all he gave to this team and for the very rightful recognition that he got throughout the season and the very rightful urge that was there in the fans when he didn't really play in that devastating Final Four game. Some people seem to forget his contribution. Some people seem to forget that we are holding one of the best shooters in Europe in our hands. And I'll quote a tweet that I saw. We can bring in athleticism in other positions. Touching the 4 right now, again, this is speaking in the matter that Alec wants to stay. Touching the 4 right now is a big mistake, in my opinion. I don't think that in any other circumstance, rather than Alec asking to leave, I don't think he should leave for any reason in the slightest. So I've given him an 8.5. Nigel Williams goes next. A player that started the season badly. A player that rose up when it was needed, playing 35 and 40 minutes. Μόνο Ολυμπιακός και πάντα Ολυμπιακός. Playing 35 and 40 minutes when was needed because it was a must because we didn't have another guard to play the time that was played. He stood up and carried the team, being crucial in some wins, some much needed wins. And as much as his situation was weird, and we don't clearly know who's at fault, as much as his injury was doubted, and again, that's not my place to stand. Uh, so I won't stand on that. I can't I really just I can't bypass the contribution that he gave to this team. I was teetering between a 7.5 and an 8, and I'll land to the 8. I'll give Nigel Williams was an 8. Then it's the returning hero of Olympiacos BC, and it's the missing piece of the puzzle of this year. Sasha Vezenkov returned with greater expectations than ever. Sasha Vezenkov has improved his game, and he is better than ever. He battled injuries, doubt, even closed his socials after the Final Four, which we've talked about that. I don't really want to get into that again, but he had a lot of things because he didn't show up in that Final Four game. And that's the only reason I'm not giving him a 10. I'm giving Sasha Vezenkov the first 9 of the squad. And honestly, what's there to say about Sasha? I know that a lot has been heard. The people that called for Vezenkov to go just don't know basketball or should just calm their heads before writing some stuff. Uh, Vezenkov is a vital part of this team, and he will always be. I said some stuff after the Final Four as well. People can call me out on that, but I know how very wrong I was. Again, in hindsight, and call me down. And the missing piece of the puzzle, the player who we've all grown to love immensely, and the player that's grown to love us very fast. That's Evan Fournier, the man that is vlogging his vacation and touring the Greek islands right now. The icon, the French lover, as I can say it calmly, the destroyer of Pana in the way only bold players with beards can destroy Pana, and the player that I feel like we haven't even seen the best out of yet. Given Pana 9 as well, his performance in the Final Four was honestly enough to bring a tear to your eye. The love he's shown for this team is enough to bring a tear to your eye. The love he's shown to the fans. We're talking about an amazing person on and off the court, and someone that's going to win everything with this team. And I truly believe that. And someone that's going to retire here. Because, of course, Evan Fournier is going to retire here. I don't think, same as maybe Rodinei in football, I don't think there is any doubt that they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. Not much to say about Evan because no words can describe what Evan gave to the team. And honestly, can't wait to see what's next. And for the man whose head was cold, for the man that has always put Olympiacos above himself, for the man that is going to be here next season as things stand, whether some people hate it, whether some people love it, and for the man that we will all stand by no matter what, discussions were held, discussions were talked about. He's been protecting Olympiacos on his own for a while. He's been standing for Olympiacos. He bleeds red and white, and that's your responsibility. Coach B for me gets a 9. A year that could have been better. A year where his mistakes shown, but a year that ended the way it should have, honestly. And if the summer goes well, of course, Bartzokas' contract ends next summer. as far as I'm aware. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Hopefully, the summer is managed well, and all the goals are achieved next season, and he leaves the hero that he already is, but even more. He leaves a double certified legend because he already is a certified legend. As I talked about, some individual awards, credit to Olympiacos BC fans again. And there is a comment saying here, my player of the season is Evan Fournier. He came and showed everyone how it's done while loving the Greek culture. And a lot to that while loving Olympiacos as well. Drop your individual awards in the comments, whether you're listening on YouTube or Spotify. I'll list them off really quickly. My MVP, my player of the season is Sasha Vezenkov. It was between him and Evan, but given how I've given Evan basically a category of his own, Sasha just edges it for me. My most improved player was between two, honestly. Uh, it's between Ghost and Tyler. I think I'll just edge it over to Tyler in hindsight because of how vital he was out of nowhere in us winning the league and bringing the series in our favor. As I said earlier, sixth man of the year for me was Alec Peters. Rookie of the year was Evan Fournier, which can also be translated into signing of the season. Evan Fournier easily. Uh, and again, as I said, I feel like we haven't seen even the best from Evan yet. Clutch player of the season, I've also given to Evan Fournier. No explanation really needed. Disappointment of the season, I was teetering between a few. I've given it, as I said, to Luka Vildoza. Surprise of the season, I've already said my reasoning earlier. I've given it to Alec Peters. Best result of the season, I've given the league win against Panathinaikos, and worst result of the season, I've given the Final Four game against Monaco. As far as uh, season reviews go, that's about it in my eyes, at least, closing in on an hour. So I want to just talk about some stuff that's been going around for the next like 5 10 minutes and then slowly close off. Thank you to all of you that have listened up to now, of course. Uh, first thing, first things first, of course, hasn't been officially announced because he's still playing his finals. As was reported, uh, may even be a couple of weeks to a month now. Ward has agreed a contract with Olympiacos. Much needed reinforcements at the three. We'll see if we bring another three. And my opinion is that we do need another three, but of course we'll see how that goes. And I can't wait to see him in red and white. Of course, the talk of the moment, the talk of the yeah, yeah. When I was saying that the player is needed in every position, as I said, don't touch the four. Don't touch the four. Everything else is more than accepted. Um, but yeah, the talk of the moment is Vasilije Misic and Mike James. Mike James, of course, said to leave Monaco as things stand, and Misic said to be declared a free agent at the 30th, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, People teetering. Of course, I would love Misic to come to Olympiacos, but I don't think it is as much of an end of the world scenario as people just point it out to be if he doesn't. The man that I would not love at Olympiacos is Mike James. I think it would be a couple of years too late if we do end up going for the Mike solution. But of course, if Coach B, who does hold a special admiration to Mike James, if he wants him in, of course, I'll support any Olympiacos player, but I personally don't want James. I would much rather this is as would many people, I think. Uh, that's a random comment about F1 that Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris beat Mercedes. Oh, God. For those of you that love F1, you'll know what that comment means, and I'll go check that out after I'm done. Of course, as I said, we need a big. The latest reports are that Otoro may not end up going to Hapoel, so that's maybe a name to keep an eye on, but we'll see how we move at the bigs. And then it's the Greek names that have been going around. A name that we are very strongly interested in is AX Omiros Nezipoglou, a player that people don't really care for nor appreciate. Uh, and I'll go against the grain a bit and say that Nezipoglou, for the role that he'd be coming in for, I feel like he'd be a great addition to the team. He's very young as well, uh, and the things he can bring are perhaps a bit unknown, but Nezipoglou, if it comes to that, as far as I'm standing against the grade, more or less, I would love for him to join Olympiacos. People have said about Antetokounmpo, Kostas, of course, not really for that. I forgot to note down the name of the Prometheus player that has been connected with both us and Panathinaikos. You all know who I'm talking about. I would much rather him. I don't know. It's call it a feeling, but I don't really uh, think that Costas and the Tokubo would work for us. That's about it for this big air show. Check out everything you need in the description, uh, and I will see you all in the next one within the week. I'll update you for what will come as time goes on. I am planning some special stuff. I'm working on some special stuff, and I can't wait for you all to see. Thank you all, as always, for your uh, support. Hope the episode runs smoothly, and see you all the next one.